he, him pronouns. And like Corinne said, I'm the career advisor, or one of the career advisors here at the U of I. And so specifically, I'm a career advisor for the College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences, and also our equity and diversity units. So yeah, I've got weekly drop-ins on Mondays in the Student Diversity Center from 2 to 4. So I've seen a couple of you there, so it's good to see some friendly faces in the crowd. But yeah, I encourage any of y'all, if you ever have any questions about your own career or like an internship or your resume or really anything that has to do with kind of what you might want to do for your career or once you graduate or what you're doing over the summer or really any professional endeavor, I'm more than happy to have those conversations with you. That's my job. So yeah, please feel free to stop by those drop-in hours or reach out to me at any time because I'd be more than happy to talk with y'all. Specifically today, I'm really excited to be talking with y'all for about, I'd say 30 minutes or so, and we'll leave some room for Q&A at the end on just like some topics of networking. We're going to talk a little bit about professional communication, specifically like written communication and reaching out to people. And then also we're going to talk a little bit about some resources for exploring jobs and internships. So I will share my screen for my next trick. Excellent. Nice. And yeah, if anyone ever has any questions or anything throughout this presentation, please feel free to throw your questions in the chat or even just kind of like unmute and like yell at me to stop. I'm more than happy to stop wherever we need to and talk about whatever is on your mind. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end, but yeah, if you've got a question just based on anything that you hear me saying, please, it won't bother me at all. Excellent. So, like I said, kind of how to network, what that even means, and exploring jobs and internships, and kind of like how to search for those. So, kind of wanted to start off with talking about networking. And like, what does networking even mean? Why is it valuable? And I know, at least for me, and especially when I was a student at the U of I, the word networking and just like that idea of like your network and networking seemed really kind of like cold and impersonal, and made me just kind of like a little uncomfortable and a little bit nervous because it almost felt like it was almost like job interviews or something like that. But that's not necessarily what networking like actually means. I would say the word networking and your network is actually just kind of the relationships that you have and the people that you know, and those relationships working in a way where you can help each other learn more about career opportunities or just kind of help each other succeed and gain opportunities as they come up. An additional reason why I would say networking is so important and is because before posting a job, our research is actually showing that 72% of employers are first looking at like internal resources or kind of like talking to their own employees about who they might know who could be a good fit for a job before they go about actually posting that job online. So by networking, you're actually making yourself a lot more open and available to possible internships and possible jobs in the future that organizations might be kind of going through their own kind of resources to fill those positions. So networking is important and it can definitely help you get jobs and internships. And so, like I said, like networking can, and like your network can seem kind of intimidating, but everyone in the Zoom call already has a network. I'm in your network, Corinne's in your network, other people in your cohort are in your network, people in your classes are in your network, your faculty, like professors and like your advisor, people in your hometown, even like the person next to you, like on a bus or like at a coffee shop, like that person is potentially in your network just by having a conversation with them and learning a little bit about kind of who they are. So your network is a pretty broad set of people that you know and relationships that you have. There's still like some really good ways of expanding your network though, that the University of Idaho offers and that also you can be pursuing kind of like individually on your own, just to continue to meet more people and kind of develop your network. So fortunately, we were just able to have a really good career fair last week. We did that virtually as well as hosting like individual like networking nights the night prior. So that was a great opportunity that many of y'all were able to take advantage of, where you're able to meet people who are working in specific fields, who can offer advice on like, some things that they did when they were in undergrad that really helped set them up for success. And just basically learn more about people who are doing jobs or have internships that we may ourselves want to do someday. So kind of the bad news is that was all last week, but the good news is you have a ton of opportunities to like continue to participate in more career fairs because we have a career fair every semester. Different colleges are hosting networking nights every semester. And not just while you're a University of Idaho student do you have access to those events, but you'll continue to have access to those career fairs and networking events as you become alumni and graduate. You have access to those services for life. So we will be having a lot more, and you have a lot of opportunity coming up to continue to engage in similar events. But there's more ways than just like actual events and like planned scheduled things to expand your network. Even going to a faculty member's office hours to talk about like an assignment that you have coming up, or get more advice on like an essay that you might be writing, or just kind of like asking them some questions about like the major that you're currently in or the class. Like that's a good way of kind of strengthening your relationship with a faculty member, and showing and like kind of becoming more than just one of the students in their class, but a student in their class that's also taking the extra initiative to meet them in their office hours, and have extra help on an assignment, or just ask some good questions. And that's a really good impression to make with that faculty member, and will kind of like expand the relationship that you have with them, and really kind of like add them to your network of friendships and professional relationships. Other conferences and events are frequently happening, like depending on kind of like what you're interested in learning about. For example, like, there are, annual, several like annual like accounting and finance, different like events and conferences that are happening, or different panel events that employers are talking on, or just different things that are happening just throughout the year that you can attend in order to meet someone and make connections. And also student organization and clubs are a great way of expanding your network. And so whether that's like being in the snowmobile club in engineering, or even being in the plant club, or even like joining like the Quidditch team or something like that, you're still putting yourself in a position to meet people, and develop those relationships. So it can be a little harder to do some of that face-to-face nowadays, but luckily there's been a lot of really good like virtual events going on, that make it even easier to interact with people that have similar interests of you. And even like this event that we're having right now, right? You've gone out of your way to attend this event, and that already makes me interested in knowing who you all are, and making some connections with you all. So again, that's just like a very like kind of small example, but even just by being here, I have become an even stronger part of your network, than I was, like 10 minutes ago before we started this. Nice. So those are some kind of like event-based, or kind of like action-based ways of expanding your network. But there's another way of expanding your network that I think is really, really important to talk about, and is becoming even more important as like our world has become even more digital. And so that resource is LinkedIn. And before I jump into this, because I do kind of have several slides about LinkedIn, I want to let you know that like I don't work for LinkedIn, and I don't work for like Microsoft or anything, so I'm not like pushing LinkedIn. I just really do think LinkedIn is that good of a tool, especially for college students, to just like meet a lot of people that are doing some cool things, that as like students and people from Moscow, Idaho, or living in Moscow, Idaho, we may not have like the physical opportunity to do that all the time. LinkedIn really does a good job of closing that gap, and allowing you to interact with some people that we otherwise wouldn't be able to meet in Moscow. So I just kind of want to go down the list of like what LinkedIn can help you do. And so first and foremost, LinkedIn can help you maintain your current relationships. So just like as a screen grab, and for example, this is my friend Nick, who I went to school with at the U of I. And Nick and I don't talk a ton. Like we definitely talked a lot in like undergrad, but as like he's started his career and I've started mine, we don't just talk as much as we used to in undergrad. But because we're connected on LinkedIn, we're able to just stay like up to date on like what each other has been doing, where he's at in his career, what I'm at in mine. And when Nick posts something like this, about being really excited about like a new certification that he's got, I can just comment on LinkedIn and say like, nice work to Nick. And that just reminded Nick about like who I am, and kind of like, I kind of like reappeared on his radar a little bit, if you will. So yeah, LinkedIn really good for maintaining those relationships that you already have, and staying up to date with people who you're already friends with, especially as like life continues to roll along. And so LinkedIn's also really good at creating like brand new relationships. So you can keep up with the people that you already know. But what I think is even more valuable is getting to know people that you've never met before. And that can seem like kind of weird because it's like, oh, you want me to meet like a random person. But that's kind of like what LinkedIn is for. It's for the purpose of interacting with professionals who are working in all different kinds of ways. And kind of acting as a bridge for you to like reach out to those people and learn a bit more about what they do. I kind of like to have one thing in common with the people that I reach out with. Like starting at the University of Idaho's page, I mean, going to that like alumni tab there on the left is a great place to start. So just by going there, there's over 57,000 University of Idaho alumni on LinkedIn, working in all kinds of fields, doing all kinds of jobs, and come from all kinds of different like educational backgrounds and have all different kinds of majors. That it's really interesting to kind of go on there and search some, like look through people, searching by like titles or keywords or even specific companies. So for example, if I were to search specifically for political science, that would be like 1,704 different alumni on LinkedIn who in one way or another, their profile has something to do with political science. So you can kind of like this kind of like last picture shows all those people down there, like you could continue to like scroll through like a ton of people and you're gonna be able to like look at their profiles and see kind of like what the job is that they have. And also like, what are some of the steps that they took in order to get to that job. So for example, we're looking at Samantha Baker here, and I just pulled this off of LinkedIn a couple of days ago. But she's currently working in the US House of Representatives as a senior legislative assistant. And so if that were something that I'm interested in, like maybe I study political science, or maybe I have interest in like working for the government, she could be a really interesting person to reach out to. And I could also not just look at like what she's doing right now, where it says like senior legislative assistant, but I can also kind of like go backwards in time, like throughout her experience to see not what only is she doing now, but what did she do before that? And what did she do before that? And before that, all the way down to like when she herself was an undergrad and a student at the University of Idaho. So yeah, by kind of like looking around on LinkedIn and seeing like who people are and what they do, you can actually reach out to these people to have conversations and get some advice for them, especially if what they're doing is something that you would want to be doing in the future too. So you can develop your network that way and meet some of those people who could provide you great advice or even opportunities down the road. Those are called informational interviews, and we'll get into those here in a little bit. Nice. Another great reason to be networking on LinkedIn is that recruiters are all over LinkedIn. Recruiters love LinkedIn. They've got like these like mega profiles where they're able to like recruit really well. I don't know a ton about like the recruiter profiles because I haven't had one, but I know it basically allows them to really be searching for all kinds of different people with like professional and educational backgrounds on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn and you've got a profile that talks about your major, mentions some of the work experience that you have, there's probably a good chance that a recruiter may reach out to you on LinkedIn who has internships or jobs. So this is just like one example of a recruiter like posting several different positions that they have available. And this person would be super easy to reach out to and talk about some of these positions if you were to see them like post about different positions on LinkedIn. Nice. And just a couple left. LinkedIn's also really good for just kind of staying up to date to your own interests. For example, I studied English, so I'm kind of like a language and kind of a writing nerd. So I follow the Modern Language Association on LinkedIn just to stay up to date with like what they're doing. And also because they post a lot of interesting articles that can also give me some really good advice for my professional development and things that I can be doing to continue to grow. So that's not like the only thing I follow. Like I also follow like Hasbro, and I also follow, you know, like a really fun page called like Grammar Girl. So there's all different kinds of pages that you can follow just to continue to like be learning about your interests. And also I can share these like to my own LinkedIn page to show my followers what I'm interested in as well. And that gives them a chance to interact with me on that post. Thanks. And last but not least, LinkedIn also has a really capable job board where you can just be searching for jobs, internships based on the area or the position title, or all kinds of different things that you can search for. And the more filled out your profile is, LinkedIn will actually like tell you about new job postings that it thinks you may be interested in. And a lot of them are pretty accurate to your interests. So there's also a really good job board on LinkedIn. Cool. So that's kind of my LinkedIn spiel. Again, I promise I don't work for LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is just a really good tool to use, especially because so much of our life right now is digital. This is the best digital networking tool that you can be using. And it helps close the gap between where we live, which is kind of a rural area. We still have the ability to connect with professionals who are doing really interesting jobs that we might be interested in, even though they don't live in Moscow. And kind of on that idea of like reaching out to people, if you do find someone on LinkedIn that you're interested in talking to, or this could be even someone that you met at like a career fair or at a like networking night, or even just someone that like, you know, a family friend asked, like introduced you to. Kind of talking with them to ask them questions about what they do. That's what we call informational interviews. So the purpose of informational interviews are to learn tips and advice from these professionals. So basically, like, you know, you can really pick their brain on like, what were some of the things you did in undergrad that you think helped make you successful? Or like, when did you know that you wanted to study like medical sciences? Or like, what was your first job interview like? Or what are some things that I should be doing right now, or some clubs that maybe I could join that could help me develop some skills for the type of job that you're doing? So they're just a really good resource of information because they've kind of like lived those experiences and are actively like working in a job that you have an interest in. You can also, in informational interviews, like demonstrate like your own interest to them by asking those good questions. That's just going to give a really good impression to them on kind of like what your interests are and that you're motivated to learn more. You know, informational interviews help you share your own story while hearing theirs. And again, it helps you kind of like get on their radar for possible future opportunities. Where if you reach out to someone on LinkedIn and have a great conversation, you know, they may not like offer you an internship or job like right then and there, but who knows, you know, like 4 months from now, where maybe their company does have an internship that they're trying to fill, or they do have a position that they're trying to hire for. They could be like, man, you know, I talked to James like 3 months ago. He asked me some great questions, and I know he was interested in this field. I wonder if he's got an internship this summer, or I wonder if he's found a job yet. Maybe I'll reach out to him and see if he'd be interested in this opportunity. That's something that happens quite a bit. So yeah, the more you can just be meeting people and kind of like demonstrating your own interest and hearing their story and sharing your own story, that's gonna help you develop that network and come across some of those opportunities. Nice. Sorry, my presentation software is being difficult. There we go. Nice. So kind of want to jump to professional communication and kind of just some things to keep in mind if you are like reaching out to someone that you've met like on LinkedIn or at an event, or really just like some good ideas to keep in mind when you're interacting with anybody like over written communication. And the reason I focus in written communication is because it can just be a little bit trickier than like communicating with someone face to face. Where if we're in the same room, or even if we're over like a Zoom call, like you kind of naturally are demonstrating like your personality and being polite and like introducing yourself and having kind of a more natural conversation. Whereas like email or written communication, that can be a little trickier to kind of like provide that same level of like interaction and kind of like demonstrate your personality a little bit. So I just kind of want to go over some things that are just really good to keep in mind when you're reaching out to people, whether that's a professor or or your boss or someone you just met, or really anyone that you're communicating with over email. Because it sounds kind of funny, but emailing is like a skill. You will send many emails in your lifetime, and so the more that you do it, the more that you kind of think about it and kind of in a way practice it, the better you get at it. I will say that emails are more similar to like written letters than they are to text messages. So sometimes they can be a little bit longer than like a quick snap, like ask, or a quick just like a quick kind of like text message. But they also provide the space to like have a bit more detail and have some kind of more detailed conversations, like a letter might. We have something in the chat here. Nice. Looks like we have a question. Um, would it be recommended to link with only people you have met in person, or would it be okay to link with alumni you admire but have not yet met? Great question. And I would definitely say that I would recommend meeting, it's definitely okay to meet with people that you've never met before. And like I was kind of saying earlier, it can feel a little awkward to like reach out to someone you've never met. But that's also kind of the reason that they're on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a tool that's made for those interactions and made to like develop new connections. So you definitely want to do like a little bit of like your homework before you like connect with someone or reach out to them, of just kind of knowing like why you're wanting to connect with them. So whether that's like the current job that they have, or their educational background, or just like anything that you're seeing kind of in their profile, or anything that you know about them like outside of LinkedIn. I would kind of want to know why I'm connecting with this person before connecting with them. But it's definitely okay to connect with people that you've never met before, that you're just like kind of admiring based on what you're seeing from their profile or what you know about them previously. Yeah, good question. Did that answer that question well?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. And yeah, like I said, it can feel a little bit awkward doing it, but I think people actually generally like want to help people out. So if someone were to reach out to me like on LinkedIn and be like, hey, I noticed that you're a career advisor and I think that's cool, and like I also think I want to work like in a career services office as an advisor. Do you have a couple minutes, sometime in the future to have a conversation with me? I'd be super stoked on that, and I'd be like more than happy to have that conversation with that student. Because most people working now, someone has helped them get to where they're at. So people are usually like pretty good at like wanting to help others like achieve success too. So it can sound like a little intimidating and a little bit awkward, but I think you'd be surprised with like how good of an interaction that you can have with someone, even though you've never met with them. That's a great question. Nice. So just kind of another tip for professional communication, be polite in the same way that you'd be polite in face-to-face interactions, write in full sentences. So not kind of like the choppy sentences that would probably be okay for like a text message with my friend, but not with someone who I haven't met yet, or someone that, maybe is my instructor or someone like that. And then double check what you wrote. So for example, I'm sorry. There we go. So this would probably be an example of not the greatest email in the world. So like you'll notice like we don't have like a subject line, and we're getting a little like straight to the point, like, hello, I saw you on LinkedIn and noticed that you work in a medical sciences lab. Could we meet to talk about your job and answer some questions, Drew? That is very like short and to the point. I'm not including much detail about kind of like what the meeting, like what my goals are for the meeting. I'm not like introducing myself or who I am. So this would be like an email that I probably would want to avoid sending someone, especially if I've never met them before. As opposed to perhaps this example, which again is a little bit longer, but especially with someone you've never met before, it's important to include some of these details. So we'll notice that now that we have like a full subject line, where I'm kind of like titling the email sort of, and then letting them know what the overall purpose is, like learning about medical sciences lab research. That's kind of like my goal of this email. And then starting the email off with like a kind of an introduction or a hello, right? So hello, Miss Smith. And then I have like a full line break. So this looks really like a letter, right? Or like if I was writing a letter to someone, I would write like, hello, like dear Corinne, comma, and then I would start like writing. I kind of want to do the same thing in an email. And so in this first paragraph, I'm kind of introducing myself and like why I'm reaching out to them. So I'm letting them know what my name is. I'm letting them know I'm a current student at the University of Idaho, and how I came across them, right? I found their information on LinkedIn while searching the Vandal kind of alumni. I'm looking for people who work in a research lab. I'm letting them know how their profile stood out to me. So your profile stood out to me because your current position of research manager at Biomed Technologies sounds like it involves a lot of really interesting responsibilities, and I'm currently trying to learn more about what it would be like to have a career in medical sciences research. So that whole first kind of like paragraph, those couple of sentences are really all about me letting them know like why I'm reaching out to them and like how I came across their information. So this next paragraph, which isn't really a paragraph, right? It's just like a couple sentences, but I'm still using like these line breaks or these white spaces in between to separate kind of my categories of like information. So this next one is kind of all about me like asking them to meet with me. So if you are available, I would love the chance to talk with you for 15 or 20 minutes in the future when it's convenient for you. I'd like to learn more about your current position, ask you questions about. I can also work toward a career in medical sciences research. So there's kind of like my ask. It's very clear I'm using like these white spaces to like have it like stand out on its own. And that leads me into kind of this last part here where I'm providing some contact information and demonstrating just some kind of thankfulness and some just that I'm happy to like have this conversation. So please feel free to reach out to me at this email or call my cell phone at 123-456-7890 if you would be willing to have this conversation with me. I am flexible and willing to meet whenever is convenient for you. Thank you for your time. And then a nice sign off. So like another line break, sincerely. And you can say like all kinds of things. So sincerely, or, like best wishes, or like best, or kind of like whatever you want to say there. A line break, and then your name with some contact info. So this is just like a really kind of easy way of just making sure that like you're sending like some good professional communication. I mean, like I said, like if I were meeting someone face to face, we would probably talk about like who I am, and like I wouldn't kind of naturally introduce myself in that conversation. So I want to do the same thing in email as well, especially if I'm reaching out to someone for the first time, or reaching out to someone that I isn't like like one of my really close friends, like a faculty member, or someone who works at an organization or whoever it may be. Nice. So I want to pause there. Any questions on kind of like written communication, email etiquette, or anything of the sort? And there's that awkward silence that tells me no. Awesome. Well, if you think of anything, please feel free to throw it in the chat or save it here for the end, because I'll definitely be happy to answer that. Nice. So now I kind of want to move on to like searching for jobs and internships and just exploring what some of the jobs and internships are out there. So before I jump into some specific web resources that I like to use for exploration, I just kind of want to talk about like why like even bother looking at job and internship postings. I know that like who we have in this workshop today probably have a lot of first year students, possibly have some graduating seniors. So there's all kinds of different reasons that are kind of that are good reasons, no matter where you're at in your undergrad, or even if you are looking to do an internship right now. So internships help really explore like the possible career options out there and help you just gain some more information on the fields that like actually exist. What are some of the organizations that are hiring? What are some of the names of like the job titles that I might be interested in? What are some of like the job descriptions of those jobs or internships and the skills that they're using, so that you can like look at that information and kind of continue to utilize those skills or try to put yourself in like positions in your undergrad or even talking with people in your network that can help you like gain those qualifications. And then of course at the end, especially for those of you looking for internships and graduating soon, looking for jobs and internships is helpful because you actually want to apply and get a job or an internship to gain that experience. So yeah, all kinds of reasons to look for jobs and internships. It can be to just learn what's out there and help you kind of like understand like a direction you might want to head someday. But also obviously like applying for those positions is a reality and something you can definitely consider doing too. Nice. So now I kind of want to just talk about some web resources that I really like to use for my job and internship search. Some of these may already be familiar to you, but if not, there are definitely some good websites that I would include in your job and internship search that have a lot of really good stuff on there. So the first one is Indeed.com. A lot of you have probably already heard of Indeed.com, but Indeed is kind of like I would say the biggest like public job board that has like hundreds of thousands of different jobs and internships on it. So because of that, because of like how much opportunity is on there, I think it's a really good kind of catch-all for opportunities like in a specific location where maybe like, okay, I'm interested in like specific fields, but what I'm most interested in is finding like what I'm most interested in is finding an internship like in the city of Boise. So searching for just like internships, Boise, Idaho, and will actually yield like a lot of results that you can look through. It's also good for finding like specific things. And so using, specific keywords and searching through using the filters just on like any kind of like keyword that is relevant to what you're interested in. So that could be like advocacy, psychology, Spanish, finance, research, even like the word remote. If you're looking for a remote position is great to be searching for. And Indeed has a lot of really great opportunities on their jobs and internships. So I would definitely suggest adding that to your search process. And so additionally, and now getting a little bit more specific, anyone that was able to attend our career fair last week is already familiar with Handshake, so nice job. But for those who aren't yet familiar with Handshake, Handshake is another job board that I highly suggest using because you have access to it specifically as a University of Idaho student. So there's tons of jobs and internships on there. We also host lots of events and info sessions from employers on there and some great opportunities to network. So any opportunity, job, or internship that you see like on Handshake, it's there because that organization has interacted with our office. We've like done research on them and their opportunities, and they've met our standards. So we allow them to post on Handshake. So you have access to these jobs and internships as University of Idaho students. So I'd highly suggest using Handshake because of that privilege. Nice. Additionally, Going Global is another really good job board that we have, specifically if you're interested in looking for international jobs and internships. So Going Global, based on what you can search by like country, and you can see like live job boards of positions being hired in those countries and down to like the city level within those countries. So like if I was interested in, say, a couple years, like, in a couple semesters, I want to study abroad. And while I'm studying abroad, I want to have like an internship. If I'm studying abroad in, I don't know, say like, Costa Rica, like I can search like internships Costa Rica and see like what is available there. So maybe I could do an internship during my study abroad. Or if you just want to work abroad after you graduate, you can like be searching for international jobs through our Going Global website. It's also got some really cool like country career guides that talk about like the work environment and kind of like the professional culture of that country. It also has a lot of really good like career news and career articles that they post a lot of the times that have to do with like specific topics like COVID or like, resumes in the Middle East or, like really interesting topics like that that you may not think about before kind of like seeing someone like write about it. So if you are interested in international jobs and kind of like working abroad someday or soon, I definitely suggest adding Going Global to your search kind of repertoire. Nice. And then last but not least, our career services website has a ton of field specific job boards. So if you have specific interests, say that's like marketing or biology or theater, or even want to look at like regional jobs or jobs that have a focus in diversity or nonprofit or the government or art and architecture or whatever it may be, our career services page has a lot of specific job boards that can fill your kind of industry specific need. So I'll actually, I can throw this link into the chat right now, actually. So y'all have that. So it's this page right here. And so just for example, while we're here, I can like click the drop down on like, I want to know more about jobs in like art, architecture, and design. That's going to, so like, and specifically maybe creative design. I can go to like this website And now this is going to have like all kinds of jobs. Sorry, I just disappeared up there. Their job board here is going to be like all kinds of different positions that have to do with like design and like creative like web development. So this is just like one example of a specific job board that you can interact with. But we have a ton of those on our career services webpage here, and I will throw this link in the chat right now. Jumping back to the presentation. Just kidding, it wants me to start all over. So I will go like this. There we go. Excellent. Nice. Another great strategy for looking for jobs and internships would just by visiting like specific company websites, and also sometimes just a good old like Google will go a long way. If you're just researching like specific organizations of interest, or like geography is really like what's driving your jobs, Googling like companies in Boise, or like marketing internship in Boise, or Spanish translator in McCall. Like a lot of times those will yield results like just by doing that. That could be really attractive. Additionally, if there's like a specific company like Schweitzer, or the University of Idaho, just like going straight to their website and seeing what they have posted is another way of just being aware of what they currently have available and what opportunities you could be applying to for a job or an internship. And if they don't have anything posted online, because like we were looking at earlier, a lot of times companies won't post things online because they're talking to their own employees to fill that job first. It's totally okay to reach out to the companies directly. You can give them a call, you can send them an email, you can reach out to a recruiter on LinkedIn. There's all different kinds of ways that you can reach out to people who are working at those companies that will help you get in touch with them and just learn about any opportunities that they have available. The answer could still be none, but at least you're still like putting a face to the name and letting them know that you're interested in working for them. And now you're someone kind of in their network that they may think about the next time they do have an opportunity available. If you do reach out to a recruiter specifically on LinkedIn to talk about a specific job or internship, I would recommend having your resume already ready to go, because in the best case scenario, they could be like, yeah, we actually are like about to post our new internships. Do you have a resume that you could like send to me really quick? So if they did ask that, it would be just sharp and a good idea to like have that ready to go right then and there. So I would kind of spend some time getting your resume together beforehand if you are going to reach out to a recruiter on LinkedIn to talk about a specific job or internship that you want to apply to. And last but not least, just like stay organized in your job search and your internship search. So whether that's like in Excel or on Microsoft Word, or even just like pen and paper, create like a list to track like what you're applying to and what you're interested in. So having like the name of the organization, the job title, a deadline for the application, a URL to their website, or a URL to their the job description itself. Just kind of staying organized on like all these jobs and internships that you're finding and are interested in can kind of just help you take steps towards applying, and you can kind of like check things off your list like as you go along. It's also like a good idea as well to just like schedule a time each week for your search, just to kind of stay on top of it. So, like even if that's like, okay, every Thursday at study table, from 3 to 4, I'm going to search for jobs and internships with the goal of finding at least one internship to add to my list. So just kind of like making a plan like that, and kind of attacking it methodically, even if it's not like, huge chunks that you're like huge gains that you're making every single time. You don't have to overwhelm yourself with like, all right, every Saturday, I'm going to spend 8 hours searching for jobs and internships and I'm going to apply. Like, don't overwhelm yourself. Even just like a little like 1 hour here, 1 hour there where I'm going to search, like that's really effective in helping you like actually identify some internships or jobs that you're interested in and actually apply. Awesome. Well, yeah, that's kind of what I had for y'all today. I know that was kind of like a few different topics. So if any of y'all have questions about anything that we covered, about searching for a job or internship, or about networking, or about written communication, or really anything that's on your mind about just kind of like professional endeavors, I'd be more than happy to answer those questions. You can also schedule an appointment with me or another career advisor through Vandalstar, or calling us at 208-885-6121, or emailing us at careerservices@uidaho.edu. We also have daily drop-in hours Monday through Friday in our career services main office from 11 to 1. So you don't have to schedule an appointment for that. You can just show up between 11 and 1, and an advisor will be able to meet with you. And we also have a virtual option for that. Additionally, as a lot of you know, I'm also in the Student Diversity Center on Mondays from 2 to 4, hosting those free drop-ins as well. So yeah, if you have questions, you can definitely schedule an appointment or meet with me in drop-ins. And if you have a question right now, I'd be more than happy to answer any of those.
Awesome. Oh, I think we have a question. No, I thought I heard someone unmute their mic. Oh, okay. In the meantime, Drew, thank you so much for this very comprehensive presentation. One thing while we're waiting, and just as a while we're waiting, because absolutely please throw your questions out there, put them in the chat, unmute yourself, however you'd like to ask. But one thing is I was wondering if you could speak to your experience or observations you made about the way that you see, individuals' majors connecting to the work they go into. For example, you mentioned you come from an English background and are now in career services. How have you kind of seen, like, I don't know, maybe unexpected kind of major to career jumps, or if you don't mind speaking a little bit more on that?
Yeah, great question. I'll start off by saying that at no point in my undergrad was I like, I'm going to graduate and become a career advisor, and that's my goal. I just kind of like ended up here, right? But I'm really happy in this job because I utilize a lot of the skills that I developed as an English major. So I would say that this answer is kind of twofold, where there are some majors that are very related to what that person wants to do for a career, and that it makes a lot of sense, right? Like if I study mechanical engineering, there's a job for me called mechanical engineer, and that's most likely the job that I want because I'm studying mechanical engineering. Not always, but for the most part. As opposed to, perhaps, if I study philosophy, there's not really a job for me out there called philosopher, but that doesn't mean that there's not a ton of jobs that still would utilize the skills of someone who studied philosophy, like critical thinking, your written and interpersonal communication, your ability to research, your ability to work on a team, your ability to like present information. All of those skills are very, very needed in the workforce. And so there are a lot of jobs out there that don't necessarily share the same title as a degree, but still are looking for folks with degrees that have a lot of those skills. So I would say that was the same for me, where I don't have a Bachelor of Arts in Career Advising, but my Bachelor of Arts in English, through like some of the things that I was able to do, like in the Writing Center, I developed a lot of skills in interpersonal communication and talking to people one-on-one. And I developed developed some skills in presenting information to large groups. And that's basically what I do in this job. So they weren't looking for someone necessarily with a degree in career advising, but they wanted someone who had those skills. And so I felt like I had those skills as an English major. And that's the same case for all kinds of different majors, that the degree title won't always explain to you what the job is going to be, but more so what you learn and the skills that you gain while pursuing that degree will help you be successful in all different kinds of jobs with all different kinds of names. Yeah. Corinne, do you share any similar sentiments there?
No, I definitely agree. Yeah, thank you. I think that's very helpful. And one other thing I'll throw in here again is, if y'all have questions, ask your questions. But one thing that we hear, oh, actually no, we have a question, so I'll save that. We have one in the chat.
Nice. So Richard asks, where is the best place to get different insights on careers? Great question. I would say in career services. No, so I would be like more than happy to have like conversations, like in appointments about like, what your specific interests are and like learning about specific fields. Um, I would say that uh, kind of some of the things that we were talking about in order to gain insights, like people, like I think is just like a really valuable resource, which sounds kind of weird. But like if I wanted to learn more about like what is it like to be an alligator farmer, like I would want to like talk to an alligator farmer to learn about what they do. So that's why I really like kind of harped on LinkedIn quite a bit, is because alligator farmers don't just exist like everywhere on every street. And like I could go to downtown Moscow and talk to one about what it's like. But on LinkedIn, I could like meet an alligator farmer about a job is like. And so that's going to be kind of different kinds of jobs, whether it's an accountant or someone who like works in nonprofit, or someone who like manages restaurants, or like whatever it may be. I think talking to people who are actually doing those careers is probably in my opinion, one of the most valuable like sources of information, because they live and breathe that every day. So I would definitely be super happy to have a conversation with you about like what some of your specific interests are, and then I'd be also more than happy to like help you like meet some people who are doing some of the same things to kind of learn more specifically from them too.
Other questions, comments? Yeah, okay. I think one thing I'll throw in, which is something that we see sometimes as students go farther into their academic careers, is maybe getting into a major, like getting into their 200-300 level classes, and then all of a sudden realizing maybe they're not feeling as connected to it, or it's not what they want to do, but they're also maybe a little bit intimidated by the thought of changing majors, or kind of navigating that conundrum. Do you have any recommendations for students who are still kind of grappling, or who maybe figure out at a later stage in their academic career that the path they're on isn't really something they're feeling connected to anymore?
Yeah. Well, first off, you're not alone. On average, students at the University of Idaho change their major like twice. So it's actually more normal to like select something that you think is good, try it out, and be like, maybe not, and end up changing pathways a little bit. That's actually what happens most commonly. So you're not alone. Um, and so second on that, I think really just kind of knowing like what your options are as far as like what are the like some of the majors at the University of Idaho, is kind of one of the best ways of knowing like what direction you might want to go. So one resource that I really like, and I can actually show y'all right now, is called Degree Finder. If I can get out of this full screen. There we go. Um, so just by being on the U of I's main page, and I could just throw in like in the search bar up here, probably the easiest way of finding it, just like Degree Finder. Will be that top result. And then so this is just like a really like easy way of seeing like all of the majors at the U of I. So if I just click that browse button, all majors available, and also just kind of like learn a bit more about like what they're about. So if I'm a student that has like no idea what I want to study, I could be interested in everything from ecology and biology to like theater. I would suggest going through this list and kind of starting to take this list of like 200 down to like a list of maybe 20. And then once I have that list of 20, doing a little bit more research by clicking into some of these links. So for example, if we like go into biology, it's going to tell me a little bit about what like that major is like, kind of describe very generally like what some of like the qualities of someone who may be successful in biology are like kind of the attributes that they have. And then also some possible, and again, just possible jobs that someone could have with a degree in biology. So taking that like larger list down to a smaller list, and then maybe taking that smaller list down to like a tinier list of like, maybe, okay, I've looked at all 200 of these. I narrowed that down to 20. I narrowed that list of 20 down to like 5. And with this list of 5, I'm going to do like one more step of research where maybe I'm going to actually reach out to some people who are in that major or in that department to learn from them about what their program is like. So I could go to like the U of I's like main department pages and just get some more information on like what it would be like to be a student in biology. So it's like kind of a bit more of another small blurb here, but I can also look at like some recent news and see like what some of the faculty have been doing or what like some of the students have been up to, because that's going to kind of paint a picture of like what are some things that I might be able to do in biology as well, because this is like the student and faculty experience. And so if I'm liking what I'm seeing there, I can go to like the Our People page and then like the faculty or staff page. But let's go to the faculty page. And I can see like who are the people who are actually teaching these courses. And then similarly, kind of how we were talking about on LinkedIn, I could actually like reach out to one of these people and let them know, again, like introduce myself, let them know that I'm like an undecided with my major, but biology is something that I'm really interested in learning more about and something I could see myself being happy in. And, just asking them if they had office hours or even just like 15 or 20 minutes where you could Zoom real quick to ask them some questions about what it's like being in biology. And that's, I think, kind of like one of the last steps of research and kind of knowing like, okay, all the reading that I've done online about this major, the conversation that I had with this person, I liked everything that I heard. Maybe I want to like register in one of these classes next semester and try out like a next biology class. Because I really think like actually being in the classes and getting kind of your hands on like the material and the textbooks and the assignments and like the people also in your program, that's kind of like I think what you really need to end up doing to decide whether or not you want to be in that major or not. But just doing every like bit of research that you can beforehand to decide if you do want to try those classes out, I think is a good strategy. And of course, I would be super happy. That's kind of like that answer, like in a tiny, teeny nutshell, even though that was like a 5-minute answer. But I would be super happy, and I have these conversations all the time with students, for like 30 minutes or an hour about like what their interests are and what might be some good fits as far as majors go that you could be happy in.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Well, y'all, we just have a few minutes left. Any other questions? Anything else y'all would like to see or squeeze in?
Awesome. Well, I'm going to throw my email in the chat. Please feel free to shoot me an email, schedule an appointment with me in Vandalstar. Depending on what you're studying, you'll have a specific career advisor in your success network on Vandalstar. So if you are in the College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences, I'll be in your network. So you can just like click on me in Vandalstar and it'll take you straight to my calendar where you can see my dates and times that are available and you can schedule an appointment just like that. But if you have a different career advisor in your success network, it's because they have a bit more specific information about like what you're studying and a lot of the common industries that are tied to those majors. So they might be an even better person to talk to, or you could search for my name in Vandalstar and schedule an appointment with me anyways. I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody, no matter what your major is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Drew, and thank you all for being here. Definitely reach out, schedule an appointment, stop by during Drew's drop-in hours if you're interested in connecting again. But otherwise, yeah, thank you again and have a good night.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.